time on Ended Up in Vegas. From planning weddings to designing and building a house from scratch, today's guest is used to digging into the details to bring every bride's dream to life. But as she and her husband found out, going owner-builder on an upscale cabin out of state with their little boys in tow would be no easy task, but well worth the hard work. We're here with Rissa Gunderson. Rissa, tell us what brought you to how you ended up in Vegas.
I originally came here to attend UNLV. I had done a year of university in Virginia, but I wanted a more events specialized program. So I came to UNLV to attend the Harrah's Hotel College and got a degree in events management and have stuck around.
And you stuck around. You created a business. Tell us about that.
So after graduation from UNLV, I graduated in 2008, which is like prime recession era. And the project I was working on closed. So then I went to a local trade school for wedding specific businesses. And I met some ladies in that school. And after our graduation from that program, we opened a wedding planning business together.
So you just built a cabin in Duck Creek. I'm sure that background helped you. Tell us about building the cabin and what kind of skill set you need for that.
Well, the cabin was a lot. It requires like a creative mind and a logistic mind. I think you kind of have to combine both of those things, which a lot of my wedding planning background is a lot of the same skills of like creativity and logistics have to merge pretty seamlessly.
Yeah. So when you spent time at the cabin over the weekend, like how long did it take you to build? And what was the biggest challenge that you had?
Okay, so we bought the land in June of 2020. And so we are now end of 2022 and we just got a certificate of occupancy. So it was almost a 2.5 year process because we are owner builder on it. We didn't have a builder. So one of the hardest things was that we didn't have a builder. So it was us figuring it out. My husband is in construction and so has some contacts and was able to work us through some, but getting people to work on a mountain is much more difficult than we had anticipated. So that was a big challenge. And then living 3.5 hours away was a big challenge as well.
How long did you think it was going to take?
We thought we were going to be in Christmas of 2021. So we kind of missed that mark.
22.
Yes. So we were off by a ways. Yeah.
By a little bit.
Yeah.
That's sort of the nature of construction though, right?
Yeah.
Especially when you're afar and then you're also dealing with weather, right? You've got a lot of snow and at the end of snow you've got mud and
all of those things. Things.
Yeah, and following Rissa through this, so she created an Instagram account called Our Mountain Retreat, and she's connected with a ton of other people who are building personal homes or cabins, second homes, and so it's been interesting to watch how many components of the building process there have been, everything from will workers show up to I got this furniture and I don't know if it's going to work, everything from the big and small details, right?
Yes, absolutely. So many, like you said, with the weather, Megan, combined with crews that we hired that they've promised for months they're going to show up and they've done half of our siding. And like I said, we have a certificate of occupancy, but the siding is not finished on the house. There's all these things that they're well, it takes us an hour to get up the mountain and it might snow. And I'm it might snow at 3 p.m. You have a full day before that. You could please come up here. So that has been tricky, combined with ordering furniture and it just all sitting in Vegas and then hoping it works once we put it in the home in Utah. So there's been a lot of little and big issues to work through.
So tell us about your property for those who are just listening and not being able to visualize it.
Okay. So we are actually in Panguitch Lake, which is just a little bit outside of Duck Creek. So if you're familiar with the Cedar City, Utah area, it's about 50 minutes over the mountain from Cedar City, close to Bryan Head, about 20 minutes from Bryan Head. Panguitch Lake, it's a fishing lake primarily, so not a lot of big boats on it, a lot of fishing, and it does ice over in the winter, so you get a lot of ice fishing there. And so there's one big road that kind of does a big loop around the lake, and we're close-ish to the lake, but there's nothing that's like, you can't like have a dock on the lake, which is what I had envisioned when we were first looking for property. But we do have a lake view from half of the house. And then the rest is mountains, trees behind us.
Yeah. What is the property like? Is it like a sloped?
There is some slope to it. We were hoping to be able to do a walkout basement, and we didn't have quite enough slope for that. But so it's a 2-story house with a basement. But yeah, mainly covered in ponderosa pines and some aspens and stuff. We have about 2.5 acres. In a cul-de-sac.
And I think that when you say like, oh, we built our cabin, like I think that I don't know, I just start simple in my mind. So I'm like, oh, they built a cabin. But like when people see the cabin, they realize like, oh, you built a mansion on a lake is really what it was.
I mean, we have yet to come up with the proper term for it because like you said, you think cabin and you're like, oh, logs and trees and like maybe your grandma's textiles, things like that, right? And we kind of went in a different direction. And when I tell people, oh, this is our cabin, they're like,
I'm sorry, what?
Come again? Yeah, It is a little bit different of a look. And people are like, oh, I can't imagine what your Vegas home looks like. And I'm like, well, the cabin is almost twice the size of our Vegas home. It's nothing like, we do things a little weird, I guess. But yeah, it's stone and cedar. We've shipped in cedar siding from Montana, as well as like James Hardy horizontal siding. So it's like black and wood with a black metal roof. It's a little different, sticks out a little bit in terms of the neighborhood. We tried to kind of set it into the trees a bit too, so it wouldn't be like an eyesore. I mean, I think it's beautiful, but it's not your log cabin that people think of.
Yeah.
Would you say it's more contemporary?
Yeah, definitely more contemporary. I kind of call it like a contemporary transitional modern mountain home. But that's a mouthful. Mm-hmm. It's a cabin.
It's a cabin.
Is that an Instagram handle available?
Yes. So what has been your most satisfying design choice in the cabin?
Okay, I'm going to go with the windows overall. I wanted a lot of light because I learned from my Vegas home that's not something I have. Like a lot of like our living space in our Vegas home we don't have a lot of natural light. So I was like, I want all the light. And because we are surrounded by quite a bit of trees, like just add as many windows. So I think we have 69 windows in the house.
Wow. Gosh.
And then the back of our house is there's a large 5-panel glass sliding door that is, I think, 10 feet tall and 25 feet wide. So it's kind of a monster. It's big. And then there is a huge, it's called like a storefront picture window above it. So that whole wall of glass just lets you see out to the trees and to the lake a little bit in the distance. And the reason I hesitate on that was my husband's like must have. And I was kind of like, it's been done. I've seen it a lot. I don't know if it's the coolest thing, but it really does provide a great view. I do love that more than I thought.
Yeah, I was living for the photos when she moved into the house a couple of weeks ago of the boys like playing outside of there and how the light like literally shines through just so gloriously through those windows.
Yes, we have the windows face east, like the sun rises right there. And so we get all the morning light and then it just seems to like filter all day really prettily through there. And then across from the back door, there's quite a few windows on the front door as well. So it's more shade and stuff, but we have the deck right off of that slider. So it does provide just a lot of like exploration into nature. That's what we wanted, like just easy access to the outside.
Feeling like you're bringing that kind of outside in almost. Yeah, you're right in there. And you want that when you're going someplace like that. And there's a lot of sun in the wintertime.
Yeah.
It's a really pretty place in the winter.
Yeah. Lucky. That was one of our main reasons behind getting a cabin was when I found out I was pregnant I have 2 boys with my second boy. I just felt like Vegas I didn't have the backyard in Vegas that I wanted them to be able to explore and get messy and break things. And, so I said, let's do a cabin. And then it kind of snowballed into what we have now.
Let's do a mega cabin.
Let's do, yes.
So tell me, so I think I know the answer to this, but tell me what like the biggest snafu or like the most challenging thing was in building the cabin.
You think you know the answer?
I think I do.
Oh, okay. Well, I have to think about the answer. I mean, all of it. It's all been hard. So because we don't have a general contractor, my husband, who I said, we own a low voltage electrical company. So we're in like this kind of niche of construction. You know, he doesn't do like framing or something. We do a lot of commercial, but we have friends that are in the trade. So we were able to trade a lot of work with them. But we didn't have like somebody there on site all the time. So my husband lived up there 6 days a week, like overseeing things for about the last 6 months. In the beginning, he was going 3 days a week or something like that. We'd go in the summer and we lived on a trailer, or live in a trailer on site. So between him being there all the time, trying to find trades that would agree to come up and work, paying for lumber when it was like at the peak. Yeah. Yes, crazy. All of it has been much harder than I anticipated, to be honest.
I think that's what most people don't know about like renovation projects. And I mean, especially a new build, but like even a renovation, I think is very difficult for people to like comprehend, like when people are coming and that it doesn't always end up being the same time as you expect and weather happens or whatever. But what I was referring to was actually the wood beams that you had wanted to do on the ceiling.
Yes. Okay. So I had this vision of having an oak ceiling. So that back door slider, that is like a vaulted cathedral ceiling. And I think it's somewhere between 32 and 36 feet in the air. Like it's a pretty massive ceiling. And we have these, I think, really pretty white oak floors and white oak cabinets. Because it's not like a cabin outside, I was like, I'm going to go heavy on the wood on the inside just to make it feel like in 20 years you could walk in and feel like, oh, it still has like kind of woodsy cabin feel. Yeah. So I wanted to carry that to the ceiling. And to get white oak on your ceiling is very expensive. And we were like, we can do it with pine. We'll figure it out. I got the stain of our flooring matched exactly at Sherwin-Williams to the stain that we could put on our pine. And I started staining over 100 pine boards and like prepping them, staining them, doing another stain, cleaning them again, and then getting them on the ceiling. And it was like, no.
How many did you put on the ceiling before you called it?
Probably within 2, I knew, oh, this is not going well. And so then probably 10 in, I was like, nope, really not okay. And part of the reason is we have a wood beam up there as well. And it was clashing with the wood of the wood beam and all the different colors of the pine were coming out. And it was just really, really bad. So,
but you did 100 of those.
We stained over 100.
Hand.
Yes.
So what did you do with them afterwards?
So we installed them all, or we didn't. We hired somebody that installed them all, and then we had a painter paint it all white. Okay. And so it's kind of like a white, kind of shiplappy, like a vertical shiplap look. But it actually is I really love it. It's really beautiful. It does reflect all that light. And because it does have like a lot of knotting and texture on the ceiling, like it provides another element and still gives some warmth and a different change in texture, which was important to me. So it turned out, I really loved the end result. Wasn't quite what I had pictured, but I'm really happy with it now.
It was a labor of labor to get
that. Yes. And I've gotten a lot of messages from people like, I know you wanted that wood ceiling, but I really like it white. And I do too. Yeah, I'm really happy with it now.
Happy accidents. I think sometimes that happens. Yes. You feel like you expect something and it doesn't always work out the way you want. And sometimes it's even better than you could have done.
Yeah.
I didn't believe that when I started planning. I was like, no, that's just what people say when they screwed up, like they just have to make themselves feel better. Yeah. And maybe there's a little bit of that, but no, that was my experience with a lot of things. Like wasn't my first or second or third choice because it was going to take 2 years for something to ship, but you settle on whatever. And it turns out, oh, that was really great. It worked out. I like it.
Yeah.
I love that.
Me too. So what would your advice be now that you have like come to the end of this project for someone who, would love to do a custom build, even if it's the home that they're living in? What would the advice be that you would give to them?
So live more locally. Don't try and do it from hours away. I don't think I would do that again. A lot of patience, a lot of planning, and a lot of communication. If you have a builder or if just like a lead, whomever is renovating or something. I think your communication, expectations, setting those out from the beginning makes a big difference. Knowing like, are we going to talk daily? Are you going to give me weekly updates? Like, what should I expect so that neither of you are feeling frustrated? And then a lot of patience and being as organized, having a very good idea, but then like we just said, also being flexible that maybe something comes up out of budget, maybe something different becomes available. I tried to like, this is the tile I want. And then when the tile guys got there, trust them to tell me, okay, it's going to install best in this sort of a pattern. Like this sort of tile doesn't work in a herringbone or something like that. Like, you know, try and have your must-haves that you don't want to break or be flexible on. Have a few of those. And then some other things like listen to the professionals too, who are like, it's going to crack, it's going to do this or that, or you don't want to have black tile and white grout or, you know, those sorts of things. I think they have, sometimes you can tell, like, I do believe some trades just want to be lazy and like, are like, oh no, just do it this way.
Right.
That does happen.
Yeah.
But also they do have experience, you know, in installing whatever it is you're working on. So be open to what their feedback as well.
Yeah, I find that sometimes with trades, they are used to doing things a certain way, and not necessarily that they're being lazy, but they want to be able to recommend just a standard way of doing things. So did you find that having a very specific aesthetic ever brought about situations where you were like, nope, I'm sure I want to do it like this?
Oh, yeah, all the time. People walk in and they're like, it's really white and it's really like neutral. And I'm like, that's what I wanted. Just do what I said. So yeah, there were some things. Flooring was pretty good. I did have when we were framing, I really wanted our loft, the way it ended up. And our framing crew, we had a really bad engineer on our project. And when they went to do the framing, the guys were like, this is not possible. Like, it will not work. And so they're like, we're going to have to build a wall and close off the loft, which opens the top floor to the main floor. And I was like pretty devastated, couldn't think about it, because if I did, I was going to be really upset. And they worked it out so that by the next time I was up there in 2 weeks, they had reconfigured a bunch of stuff to make it so that the loft is open. And it is like the best thing that loft is open. I'm so glad. So, some things like that. I'm trying to think other trades. If they pointed, our tile guys are fantastic. Our painters kind of just did whatever. The cabinet guys, I worked with them a lot to kind of create some custom looks for what I wanted. Most guys were pretty open to what I wanted, but yeah, maybe not always like what they were used to or their standard of how they do things.
Right. And you have a pretty eclectic audience on your Instagram. So I feel like you were also getting some feedback from them. And like, she's made posts about, you know, open shelving in the kitchen being passe now that you love your open shelving and you styled it really beautifully. So are there other things that you could think of that were like, you know, you were second guessing yourself or, you know,
okay.
Controversial.
Yes.
Controversial. Okay. I'm sure.
Decisions.
I feel like I do have I'm trying to think what they are. So, one thing, our range, I love our range, but everybody that buys it, usually you get it it comes in a stark white or an antique white. And I have all, wood cabinetry. And so I opted for the antique white, which is like not the right choice, I would say, you know, but I didn't want like a stark bright white. Like everything else is more of a creamy white and a warmer tone. So I went with the antique white and I love it. I think it's beautiful. I think I chose the wrong countertops for it, but we can't change that. So we're going with it and saying we love it. Other controversial things. Oh, we have a pantry. It's not a huge pantry, but a walk-in pantry. And in that space, everybody's like, if you're doing custom work, you should always take everything to the ceiling. The ceilings are 10 or 12 feet and we didn't take them to the ceiling, and I think it's just fine. And I think sometimes people are like, you have to follow rules just for the sake of following rules. And
yeah, and I'm like, break the rules.
Yeah, like do what works, you know, like it totally works. I can reach what I need.
Yeah.
And I'm happy and fine with it. But I feel like like in a custom home, people are like, they expect cabinets to go to the ceiling. Same thing with the open shelves. Our ceilings in that kitchen are like 14 feet tall. Yeah. How would I put upper cabinets, you know, like that? I can't take that to the ceiling.
Right.
So the open shelves, the pantry. I'm trying to think what else I've gotten pushback on. Oh, people don't like that our Like our main floor is just a huge open 2 stories. They think it's a waste of space.
That's my favorite part about it.
And I'm like, okay, good for you.
Yeah.
But like, yeah, that's like what makes the place to me. It's like this huge open view.
Yeah.
And people are like, you could have closed that off and had so much more square footage. And I don't need square footage just for the sake of having square footage.
Right.
You know?
The internet critics love to give opinions and rules, right?
Yeah.
I had a couple of reels go like mini viral, not like mega viral, but I got a lot of construction bros commenting all of a sudden on how things were done. And I'm like, you're not really like who I'm taking my advice from, you know, so fine. But another thing, we do have a very small bathroom in our primary suite. Because it's a second home, I'm fine with that. But we gave our boys a really big room with a bigger bathroom, and my husband and I have the smaller room with a smaller bathroom, which I'm fine with because the boys have a big space to play. Yeah. But a lot of people would walk the house before, like in this past year, people just show up and start walking around the house. I don't know how I feel about that. But people would always say like, oh, we love your bedroom. And we're like, oh, that's actually our boys' bedroom. But, yeah.
Yeah. I think people who like see an under construction home, and I know this from working in home building, they think like it's a free for all. Like anybody can just walk in there. And like, no, you can't.
Please don't. Thank you.
Yeah.
Yes, people would be doing that before, like when it was just framed and we just had huge ladders and it's tall, like I've said, and they'd just be walking up ladders and I'm like, oh gosh, please get down.
You're like, can you get off my property?
Yeah.
Thank you. Going back to the pantry, tell us about the door that you put on the pantry.
Oh, the door is like, makes my heart pitter patter still. I love it. So I actually think my mom found this store in Phoenix called Antiquities Warehouse, and they collect antiques from all over Europe, mainly France and Belgium. And then, their doors are mainly from France and Belgium, but then they have just a huge warehouse full of all sorts of antiques from all over the world. And so I traveled down there and picked out a door that I love. It's this like, it's not chippy in the sense of like a shabby chic chippy door, but it's like a weathered old door from France that enters into the pantry, and it's like probably 2/3 of it is glass, so you can see into the pantry, which is like styled nicely. It's like a pretty pantry, and there's a window in the pantry as well, so all that light comes back and forth too, which I love. And it was quite the undertaking to take a door and create a door frame for it that like didn't exist. That was a very long project. If you ask my framer, he wasn't thrilled with me, but I was really happy when it was done.
You're like, worth it.
Yeah, it was totally worth it. I love it.
Good. I think those parts of a home are like the biggest pieces of, that make your heart palpitate like that.
Totally. And I doubted it for the last several weeks. I was like, I should have just put a big arch into the pantry. Like, I don't want to be opening and closing a door all the time. I should have just left it open. And now that it's in, I'm like, oh, no. It belongs here. That's right.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
Okay, so how often are you going to be spending up there, and when can I come? I'm
Great. Anytime, you're welcome whenever. So that was part of the thing. When we started this, I had a vision of a 2,500 square foot cabin, more like a modest second home for our family to enjoy. And then it started, like I said, snowballing, and now it's like more like a 5,500 square foot space. And it's more of a hosting space, like so that more people can come. So great. You're welcome anytime.
Fantastic.
We would love people to use it because we built it. Sorry, I forgot the first part of your question.
So how often do you plan?
Oh, how often? So we're hoping to go once or twice a weekend once or twice a month, like weekends. And then during the summer to spend a lot more time up there. The summers here, we used to, before we had kids, we would travel a lot. And then being here with kids during the summer was just a buzzkill for me. It was hard. Yeah. So to have a space there.
She knows about this.
Yeah. Is a game changer, and the boys love going up there. So I plan on being up there a lot in the summers.
Tell us how old your boys are again.
6 and 3.
Such fun
They're
ages.
so cute.
Yeah. Really fun. No, they are fun. Yeah.
And you met your husband here, right?
Yes.
So tell us about like coming to Vegas, settling down. Did you expect to live here?
No, so when I came to UNLV, I thought, great, I'll get my degree. I know as part of our program, you have to work, gain work experience in town, about 1,000 hours, plus an internship. So I was like, great, I will graduate, I'll work, I'll, make connections, network, be here about 5 years. And then I should be able to take the experience of working in Las Vegas in events or weddings or conferences or whatever it is. Like I could go anywhere in North America kind of with that. So it was very temporary was my plan to be here. And And then I got married and he owns a family business here in town. So like we're very settled here now. So I think that was 2005 that I came here. So I got married a few years after that and settled down here. Yeah.
And tell us about your history in weddings. I know that you have dealt with a lot of bridezillas and fun experiences in Vegas planning weddings.
So I owned the wedding planning company for about 7 years. And we worked with kind of an eclectic mix of couples. We had a lot of couples that would come from all over the world to get married here in Vegas. So couples would come from Dubai and Hong Kong and London and all over. And when they come, they want the Las Vegas experience, strip experience mainly for them and their guests. Right. So we would have people, do everything on the strip. That was their big deal. And those clients were sometimes difficult because they're in Dubai and want things answered on Dubai time. So at 4 a.m, a lot, I'd be trying to deal with their things. But Vegas local vendors, the Four Seasons is not open at 4 a.m. for me to talk to them. Right. So they were usually great once they got to town, and then they just wanted to party, and that was great. Our local couples mainly wanted to be off the strip, at country clubs or local venues or things like that. I did work a wedding with my business partner, and the bride came in during the it was like a room reveal for the couple, like not for everybody else. Like before the reception, just the bride and groom got to come in and see the room. And it was this beautiful, expensive wedding, and everything looked fantastic. And she came in and she started adjusting the utensils, and she told the staff, "Okay, get out your ruler, and I want every every fork to be the same distance that I have put it as right here." So there were 350 place settings, and they had to take a ruler and go do it to the half inch or whatever it was that she had set up. And I just thought, just enjoy your wedding day and go have fun.
Yeah.
Yeah.
For sure.
What do you think is more challenging, building a home or?
Okay, this is interesting because I think it's kind of a parallel. A lot of brides will be like, "I loved getting married. I'm going to be a wedding planner now," and would like open their own wedding planning business because they've done their own wedding.
Right.
Which is very different than planning a wedding for somebody else, right?
Yes.
And I kind of see a lot of the same thing too. Like, I designed my own house. I can be an interior designer now. And I'm like, I think there's a lot more that goes into it with like CAD and framing and engineering, than just like picking out pretty tile or something like that. So there's kind of some parallels in that sense of like, you've done it once, you think it's very different to do it for a client than it is for yourself, making your own selections with your budget. And weddings are very emotional. Yeah,
absolutely.
So there's a lot that goes into it. A lot of people are paying for it. Usually, it's like money's coming from multiple sources. So you sometimes have to weigh a lot of opinions.
Sure.
So I don't know home building, I've never worked with anybody else, but I can imagine there's a lot of crossover, same type of things, but it's a lot of money. The nice thing I found about a house versus a wedding, though, is that a wedding, you get like a 6-hour time frame and hope that it all comes together correctly. Right. A house, I could kind of be like, "Oh, no, that's not working. Like, let's change this or that throughout the process." Or you can change the paint color if it's wrong. In a wedding, it's like,
that's it.
Yeah. You sure hope that the florist brought what, she could get that is the right color match. And yeah.
Interesting. That's interesting.
Yeah, it's a little bit more fluid and not so on the spot, like you can't change it now.
Right.
So what's the next step? What's the next thing? Are we building another cabin? Are we building a home in Vegas?
Gosh. So when we decided, we were like, should we build a cabin or should we look for a bigger home in Vegas to be able to provide the backyard and things like that? And we looked around, and everything that we found in the area we wanted was going to have to be gutted or this or that. And I didn't want to live in a renovation. That's a lot to take on as well. I've done that before. And I was like, with the kids, they were, like babies, kind of smaller at the time. But now everybody's like, "You're just going to move to Utah because your house there is nicer than this one." And we're not. I am not. But we'll see. I think we'll stay in the house we're in for a while and then think about, I don't know, we're still going to be local here, but see what the market is like. And I wouldn't do what we did without the knowledge. Like, I wouldn't do what we did again. Does that make sense? Like, I would now because it's a steep learning curve, but I wouldn't start from nothing again. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
But you don't know that until you've done it, right? So,
yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
You realize how much that support is invaluable. I have a client that just did kind of an owner builder situation. And every time there's an issue, he's like, it's this house. I'm like, no, this is just how construction goes.
Yes. Yes.
You know, but there is a lot of on the job learning or on, you know.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah. So, okay. So tell us about living in Vegas. Like, you're rooted here, so you're not going anywhere. Like, do you love it now?
I've gotten a lot more used to it. And I like I said, I wasn't here for the long term. And I kept, even for the first few years we were married, I kept kind of thinking like, what if we took the business elsewhere, you know? But the more I've thought about it, I'm like, there are so many great things. I can deal. I don't mind the heat. Like, I'm okay. I mean, I do like to be able to now go to the cabin for the summers, but the heat isn't a deal breaker for me that I know it is for some people. But like, we don't deal with like a lot of the weather and bugs and things like that other places deal with. And one of the things that I have really come to appreciate in the last several years since having kids is when I was working full time, I was on the strip all the time, like doing a lot of fun stuff, restaurant shows and that sort of stuff. And now I don't do much of that, but I love that it's there, that it's available when people come to town, or if you want to do something nice, there is a whole scene you can choose to engage with or not. Like, I haven't been to the strip in months, or I mean, like for a Knights game or something like that, but like I'm not there all the time.
Right.
But you know, if you wanted a fun night or a weekend or whatever, that's totally
right there.
Yes, totally available. And then on the flip side, now my son just started kindergarten. So like getting involved in the more like local community aspect has been really great. Like, I've loved our school, which Vegas gets a bad rap for schools, I know, but I have loved our school so far. We live in Green Valley Ranch, close to the Dollar Loan Center. So like we can walk to the district and restaurants and like more locals kinds of areas, the library, the rec center, like all of that. We have loved being in this kind of like part and nestle of town too.
It's such a cute little area. And I think, you know, we talk about this a lot. People tend to gravitate to one side of town or another. Have you lived in other parts of town, or do you really like where you're at?
So we did live in Silverado Ranch area before, probably like 12 years ago now, I think. So that's not true. When I first moved here, I've always lived in Green Valley-ish, Silverado. I've never lived in Summerlin or kind of Northside or anything like that. And I've really loved where we are in Green Valley. Like, we would choose to try and build in this kind of area again if we were to leave the house, because, yeah, we just love how many things are close by and walking trails and things like that.
What's your most nostalgic memory from living in Vegas?
Oh, nostalgia.
Or just one?
Just one memory of being here? Oh, Nikki, that's hard. I mean, okay, I'm trying to think, like, back to the early days when my husband and I were dating, we used to go to the lake a lot. Now the lake scares me, and I'm not so sure I want to.
The lake scares everyone.
Yes, I'm not sure I would do that much anymore. But that was kind of like a dating memory. I mean, we used to go out to the lake a lot, which I loved because I grew up boating and stuff as well. And so that was like so fun to me that, you know, they had a boat out here because I was in college and not having a boat. So that was fun. I don't know. Maybe that's it. I can't think of anything else right now.
Okay. So if it's a Sunday, like we often have these really beautiful, clear blue days where the sky is just perfect and 60, 70 degrees on a Sunday or whatever day that you're kind of home with your family. What are you guys doing?
Okay, just a couple weeks ago, we had such a fun Sunday. I took my boys to Boulder City. They have like an old train there that you can ride. So we rode the train, which was like the best thing for a 6 and a 3-year-old. They were so excited. It was a beautiful day and the train is open. So like the wind is blowing and it's great. And then after that, I like to antique shop. So we went to the antique stores in Boulder, which is just like a fun, easy feeling. It's not like crazy or hoarders the way, you know, like some towns get about it. So we did that and then stopped somewhere local for lunch. And it just felt like an easy, accessible, fun day. And like a little bit outside of like our neighborhood, you know, so it feels like you're kind of somewhere different, but like not that far, not that hard to do.
Right. Just around the bend.
It's fun. That train, it's the train that goes by the Railroad Express and back. It's fun. Kids love that.
Yeah. And the conductor and everybody was so great. They like went around the whole time like, can we take pictures with you? Do you want to wear my hat? Like they were just really interactive and sweet and fun with the boys.
And Boulder City's so cute. It's one of the most oldest and historic parts of Southern Nevada. And it's a lot of fun.
Yeah.
I like the coffee cup. That's my favorite Boulder City brunch spot.
Oh, coffee place. I haven't heard. Where side of town is it?
It's on the main street.
On Main
like
Street.
just
Okay.
on the main drag. And yeah, it always like is a good spot for a Bloody Mary, I feel like.
Perfect. Good to know.
I can never remember the name of it, but there's a place there. It's I don't know if it's a Mexican place, Southwest Diner or something like that, and they have this like chili relleno breakfast thing that's like, oh my god,
Yeah.
Delicious. Oh, good to know.
Where are your favorite restaurants?
So we've done the Dillinger, which is like super popular out there. I'm trying to think in Boulder City specifically,
Or
around town.
wherever you'd be going?
Okay, so some of these may be like basic answers, but like I love Settebello. I can go for like a Settebello pizza anytime.
Basic. We are all about Settebello.
I love that. Echo and Rig, which is in Summerlin, is coming to the district, which we're excited
Yes.
about. We
Yeah.
love Echo and Rig. My husband is a big Hanks fan at Green Valley Ranch.
So good. I was just there
we
the
love
other
Hanks.
night. Yeah.
Oh yeah, you were. Yeah,
Yeah.
we love Hanks. I mean, I feel like Green Valley Ranch has really stepped up their food and beverage department. They have great,
Sure.
Pizza Rock, Bottiglia, Baracha. All those are great.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Rock is so good. I haven't been there the longest time, and Hanks has the best cocktails.
Yeah, Hanks is really fun. We used to
Yeah.
do martinis and stuff there with clients. So
Yeah.
yeah.
Awesome. I don't have any more questions. You're
amazing.
Yeah. Okay. No, actually, one question I did have. So, when you were building the cabin, did you like scour all of the antique stores in Boulder City?
I kind of have a loop now that I know like where I start and where I go around. So, and dang it, now I'm gonna forget their name. But if you're ever in Boulder City, they've got like a huge like Marilyn Monroe and Elvis. They have these big statues out front, and I'm dying that I can't remember their name right now. But I always start there because they have some good furniture pieces. I walk around through there and then walk across the street, and there's kind of like a mall of like a bunch of different stores. We go through there because their inventory changes pretty often. And then just down from there is a store that I've always had luck getting good copper pieces. So yeah, I kind of have this loop that I know that I like to do. Depending on if I'm the kids, it might be a really fast loop because antique stores don't mix with little kids.
No.
Have you been into any of the antique stores in Panguitch?
Yes, I have. There's one. It's a really, really cute store. But Panguitch is kind of a tourist town, and Boulder City prices are much better. So I usually come back to Boulder City.
Okay.
Yeah, that is interesting. Okay, cool. Got any other questions?
I don't think so.
All right. Rissa, thank you so much for being on our podcast. We loved hearing about the cabin. And are you going to keep the Instagram going?
Yeah, I get that question a lot. I'll keep it going for a little while because we still have quite a bit to furnish and finish. So at least through that process, and then we'll see.
Perfect.
Yeah.
Fun. It
Thank
was really
you.
fun getting to know you and hearing your story.
Thanks, Megan.
Yeah, we can't wait to see more.
Thanks, Nikki.